I wanted to talk Adrien Broner versus Shawn Porter. This is a fight that's been talked about on a number of YouTube channels. This is a fight that looks like it's very, very close to happening. I heard Shawn and Kenny Porter on the Boxing Voice yesterday. Both guys seem very keen for the fight and are extremely confident of victory. I think this is a fantastic fight. Fantastic fight. I view it as a real 50-50. And to be honest with you, in this video, I'm not going to predict a winner with any great degree of certainty, because I don't have a clear picture in my mind of who I think will emerge victorious. Let me say, both of these guys are guys who are perhaps overrated on their way up. You know, quite quickly, these guys, maybe too early, started appearing on the top of people's rankings. You know, they started being talked about in too high a tone. You know, Adrien Broner was featuring on pound for pound lists when he was running through the lightweight division. You know, Shawn Porter, people were saying he could be the one to beat Floyd Mayweather. Now, both of these guys have suffered losses. Both of these guys have suffered bad defeats. But in my opinion, both of them are still extremely talented fighters. They've got a shared opponent in Paulie Malignaggi. Obviously, Porter gave Paulie the worst beating of his life, knocked him out. Broner outpointed Paulie in a very, very close fight that many would have felt went the other way. And I think, in many ways, that's a key piece of form. Because I'm going to be controversial here and say that I think Adrien Broner is perhaps the more talented individual of the two. I think Shawn Porter is the better athlete. I think he's a superior physical specimen. I think he's a superior conditioned athlete, and I just feel he has more sort of strength, and I think he's more of a force of nature. But Adrien Broner is more of a skillful guy. You know, Adrien Broner in his last fight against John Molina showed real progression in my eyes, real progression. He is a semi-elite defensive fighter. He's not quite at Floyd Mayweather, Bernard Hopkins or James Toney level. He's a level below that, but he's getting towards the elite in terms of his defence, Broner. He uses that kind of shoulder roll, cross-armed, high guard style, which I like. He's had problems with punch output, but was using the jab more effectively against Molina. And I think he's a really, really good fighter. The issue with Broner is twofold, both of which are likely to be issues against Shawn Porter. The first is punch output. The second is the weight. Now, I understand there's talks about this fight being made at a catchweight of 144. Arguably, that's a negative to Porter. Porter is a guy who campaigned, I believe, at super middleweight or light heavyweight in the amateurs. Porter is a guy who beat Alexander Usyk in the amateurs. That's right, the Olympic heavyweight gold medalist and current cruiserweight contender was beaten by Shawn Porter in the amateurs. You know, Porter is a seriously big, powerful specimen for 147, and for him to have to cut that additional 3 pounds could be an issue. But for Broner, he's a guy who, in my opinion, has been far more effective at lightweight than light welter and welter. You know, Broner on the way up was known as a power puncher. That's completely gone now. He just doesn't hit that hard for the higher divisions, and I think certainly Shawn Porter is the bigger puncher out of these two. So, you know, we saw Adrien Broner really being overwhelmed and outworked by a much stronger, bigger man than Marcus Maidana. And I must say, there's a lot of similarities between Maidana and Porter. You know, they're not the identical fighter. There is a difference between the two of them. But, you know, they're both very, very similar in their approach. They come forward, they're not the most technically astute. They're kind of very, very aggressive, high output, presser brawlers, if you like. And the way Shawn Porter came forward against a guy like Kell Brook, it's interesting. Will a smaller man like Adrien Broner be able to deal with that, or will he get bullied by the same way that he did against Marcus Maidana? So I feel that's two really key questions. Firstly, will Broner's output be too low against a furious, high output, high volume, aggressive guy like Porter? And secondly, will the weight overwhelm Broner? But in Porter's, looking at the other side of the fence, if you like, Porter's a really big guy. I think he's big for 147. Could cutting down to 144 be an issue? In Porter's only lost to Kell Brook. And you know, people forget now. People think Kell Brook schooled him. That was a really tight fight. Really tight. That could have gone very much either way. But essentially, in that fight, Kell Brook won by being a slightly lower volume, slightly less aggressive, high quality, accuracy, low output counterpuncher against Shawn Porter. Essentially, Shawn Porter was pushing the pace. He was throwing more lever, but Brook was landing the quality shots. You know, Porter can be outboxed. He's not the most astute technically. He doesn't throw the straightest punches. He hasn't got the best jab or the best defense. Now, can a guy like Adrien Broner exploit those gaps in the same way that Kell Brook did? It's possible. Yeah, Adrien Broner is a good technician. He's got the defence to avoid a lot of the Porter attacks. And he's got, you know, skill set. Broner's nice on the inside. He throws like a real tidy short hook, short uppercut. He's got a good jab. He rolls with punches. He's got the skill set to make Porter look silly, I think. But I think the difficulty between Broner and Brook is that Brook is possibly a better mover. You know, Broner's quite a stationary fighter. Also, Brook's got, you know, so much more size than him. I mean, Brook is a welter who could easily be a light middle. Broner is now fighting, you know, at 144. He's fighting at welterweight, but really he's a lightweight or a light welter. So the size and the mobility is an issue, and the power is an issue. Does Broner have enough power to keep Shawn Porter honest? Does he have enough snap in that jab to stop Porter from just charging in like a bull in a china shop? You know, funnily enough, I said at the start of this video, I viewed it as a genuine 50-50, and I rate Adrien Broner really, really highly. But I must say, the more I'm discussing this and thinking about it out loud, I'd have to make Porter a favourite. Because I think, you know, whilst Porter can be outboxed, whilst he can be outclassed by a superior technical fighter, he's so strong and so aggressive and rampaging when he comes forward. I'm not sure that a smaller guy without welterweight power is going to be able to keep him honest. So unless the 144 is a real issue, potentially I could see Porter being able to bully Adrien Broner. But the 144 could be an issue, you know, and Porter is a guy who's been outclassed, you know, who's had someone with superior quality and superior accuracy defeat him. So I think there is, you know, scope. Let me say, I mean, I'm a big Adrien Broner fan. I think Adrien Broner has really had his career develop in quite a poor way. I think he could have been a real pound-for-pound fighter if he'd been managed differently. And I appreciate a lot of that is probably his own fault. But if I was managing Adrien Broner now, this is the last fight I would pick for him. You know, it really is. I mean, the 140 division is absolutely ripe for a fighter like Broner. You know, I picked Broner over Provodnikov. I picked Broner over Matisse. I picked Broner over Garcia. I mean, these are guys who can also be, in my opinion, beaten by guys with superior technical ability and superior defence, but they're slightly smaller guys. You know, why he's going to be fighting a 147 fighter when there's names like that at 140? And especially a fighter like Shawn Porter, who in my opinion is so close to Marcus Maidana. Yeah, Marcus Maidana and Shawn Porter are so similar. You know, yet they both proved the kryptonite. Well, yeah, Maidana was the kryptonite to Adrien Broner. I mean, if you look at that Paulie Malignaggi fight, Malignaggi was so competitive. Yeah, there's no way a fighter at Malignaggi's level would have been able to compete with Broner at 135. Yeah, I like Paulie Malignaggi, but he's fringe top 10 at best. You know, clearly Broner isn't a welterweight fighter. Clearly he's someone struggling with discipline. But it's such a shame, because I think he could run through 140 right now. The only person who I really think beats Broner at 140 is Terence Crawford. Yeah, I honestly think that he could give Danny Garcia, Provodnikov, Matisse a bit of a schooling. But it gets to the point where no matter how technical you are and how gifted you are, you're just too small. And a guy like Shawn Porter, you know, Ken Porter was saying he's something like 157 at the minute. Yeah, he's going to be rehydrating up to that sort of level. And He comes forward so strong, it could well be too much for Broner. And Broner's jab, it's not got the same snap at welterweight as it does at lightweight. I just can see Porter overwhelming him and drowning him and bullying him. It's a very interesting fight. I really, really like the fight. But as fans of both guys, I kind of think it would have been better if they'd both been taken in slightly separate directions. You know, there's a lot of good fights for Shawn Porter at welterweight. There's a lot of good fights for Adrien Broner, put simply at any other weight than welterweight. And even if he does have to fight at welterweight, you know, I think Broner's got a better chance against Amir Khan. I think Broner's got a better chance against Manny Pacquiao. I think Broner's got a better chance against Marquez than he does against Porter. You know, styles make fights. And if you watch that Maidana fight back, it's hard to see Broner beating a fighter like Porter. Let me know your thoughts. Good matchup, but is it the right matchup? Keen to discuss.